Welcome to our training on universal, targeted and specialist levels of support from speech and language therapy. And this is by the Prevention and Early Intervention Project team within Barking and Dagenham Speech and Language Therapy Service. My name is Michelle and I'm one of the therapists in the team.
Hello, my name's Heather and I'm also one of the therapists within the prevention team.
So first of all, we'd like to talk to you about the building blocks of communication. Communication is a complex skill and there are lots and lots of different stages involved in its development. Let's have a look at the communication pyramid, and this helps us explain all of the different processes and stages that are involved. Right at the bottom of the pyramid, we have attention and listening. So this is at the bottom and it is the foundation for language and communication. Children have to be able to focus on you, the speaker, and listening is a skill that young children have to learn. There are different levels of attention and listening that children move through as they develop. Next, we have play and interaction. And interaction is often referred to as social communication. Play is really important for children. This is how they learn and develop their social skills. Children need to learn how to interact with others, how to problem solve, and how to work together. And this happens best during play. Next, we have understanding language in green. When children first begin to understand words and follow simple instructions, they use all the different cues around them to work out what they need to do, like pointing and gestures. Children need to hear words lots and lots of times so that they fully understand the words before they use them. Next, we have using language, and this is also known as spoken language or expressive language. And this is basically the words and the phrases that the child uses. Everyday objects like a spoon, cup, juice, and favourite toys like ball, dinosaur, car, dolly. These kinds of words are the words that children are most motivated to use. And finally, at the very top of the pyramid, we have speech sounds. Speaking clearly is the icing on top of the cake. We always look at a child's understanding and use of language and work on developing these first before we even think about how a child is saying the words. This is one of the last things we work on.
Support from the Speech and Language Therapy Service is based on a model that has 3 tiers. As you can see here, at the bottom we've got universal, then targeted and specialist. The aim at all 3 levels is to improve the communication, emotional well-being and academic success of the children. And let's have a look at each level in more detail. So the universal level is where the focus is prevention. This is available to all children, irrespective of their needs or capabilities. No referral to speech and language therapy is required. So universal prevention can come in the form of advice to parents, carers and settings. It can be signposting parents and carers and settings to other services, perhaps like portage or advisory teachers or the dentist or GP. We can give general training to parents, carers and settings to increase awareness of speech and language communication needs. And we can give general training to increase an understanding and promote communication-friendly environments for all children.
Next, we have targeted. this level, the focus is early support, and this requires just a little bit or some direct involvement with a therapist. So you're thinking, what does this look like from the speech and language service? The speech and language therapist might set up and model structured activities or groups to settings, and staff will deliver them. The speech and language therapist will give specific training and support to settings to help them carry out these structured activities and these groups to the children who have speech, language, and communication needs. The speech and language therapist will monitor the structured activities or the structured groups, and the therapist will help the staff to monitor the speech, language, and communication development of the children. And the speech and language therapist will offer advice when appropriate.
And finally, at the top of the pyramid is the specialist tier. So the focus at this level is the higher level of very specific therapy for children who have a defined clinical need. So these children may have medical diagnoses that impact their communication skills. They may have underlying conditions that can only be assessed by a qualified speech and language therapist. So what does this look like from the service? It looks like that the therapist will carry out assessments. They will plan a personalised therapy programme specifically for that child's needs. They will work directly with the child and their parent or carer to provide personal and tailored support in the most appropriate environment. So this might be at home, in preschool, or in school, depending on the age of the child and their needs. The therapist will monitor the child's progress, and at this level there may be some specialist training to settings and families to support them. So it may be that a child who is deaf might have some specific training with a speech therapist and a teacher of the deaf. And so at this level, a highly skilled practitioner needs to be closely involved to monitor and adapt programs appropriately for these children.
Now we are going to give some examples of a child at each level. Hopefully this will make things a bit clearer. Here is our example at universal level of support. Humir is 3 years old. Nursery and his parents aren't concerned about his language or communication. He's reaching all of his communication milestones appropriately. He has a good vocabulary, he can use short phrases, and he can play and socially interact with his friends. Humir is getting universal support in nursery. He takes part in activities in nursery that are for all children, like story time, nursery rhymes, or rhyme time. His nursery staff use strategies throughout his day to promote a communication-friendly environment. And when needed, nursery staff have access to advice from the speech and language therapist.
Our next example is Maria at the targeted tier level. Maria is 3. She's only using single words in nursery and is not using any action words like run, sleeping, jumping, sit. And she's not joining 2 words together. Maria uses a lot of gestures to get her meaning across, and such as pointing or looking. She's a very quiet child and is compliant. So she's keen to play with other children, but she has language difficulties. She's getting targeted support in nursery. Nursery staff carry out structured activities that have been modelled by a therapist to help Maria learn and use more action words. She takes part in a structured group that has been set up by a therapist to help her join words together. Her nursery staff deliver the group and monitor her progress, not the therapist. But the nursery staff do have access to advice from the therapist when they need to.
And finally, we have the specialist tier. Here we have Yusuf. He is 3.5. He has made very little progress since joining nursery. He struggles concentrating on any adult-led task. Yusuf has problems sharing toys and prefers to play by himself. He's not interested in playing with other children. Yusuf sometimes uses single words, but this is just for when he wants or needs something. He doesn't use much eye contact and doesn't play with the toys in ways you would expect. For example, he prefers to repetitively pour water from one container to the other at the water station. Yusuf has social communication or social interaction difficulties. Yusuf needs specialist support. So, nursery staff have referred to the speech and language service for further assessment. The speech therapist assesses Yusuf and creates a personalised therapy programme for him. The speech and language therapist provides specific therapy to Yusuf and his parent or carer. And the speech and language therapist monitors his progress and adapts his programme appropriately.
We're now going to give you a quick example about when to refer to speech and language therapy. So we're going to talk about Lucy, aged 3. She has language difficulties and is getting targeted support in nursery. Nursery staff carry out structured activities that have been modelled by the therapist to help Lucy learn and use more action words. But you're probably thinking, what next? Well, this all depends on how Lucy responds to the targeted support that nursery put in place for her and what progress she makes. So after one term of targeted support, Lucy is now using lots of action words and is starting to join 2 words together. If this is the case, she can access universal support from the therapy service. However, if Lucy has not made any progress and is still only using single words, then at this point, settings should refer her to speech and language therapy for specialist support and assessment. It's really important in the referral that you give the evidence of the universal and targeted support that Lucy has got so far. So think back to the universal support that anyone in your setting may have gained from speech and language therapy. Think about the activities, the targeted support that you've put in place to support Lucy's talking, and make sure that you detail this evidence in the referral. Without the evidence, unfortunately, the referral is likely to be rejected. We hope this has been helpful for you. Please contact the Prevention Project team if you have any further questions or for any clarity on any of our points. Please see the email address listed on the slide here. Thank you for listening.